Nintendo made one of the coolest interactive manuals for the Switch 2, but there's one small problem. It's a game that costs $10. And to 100% complete this game, it could cost you over $500 in accessories and hardware. Luckily, I only spent $482.63. Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour is set up to explore your new console as if it were a tech expo. Despite some parts falling flat, it's genuinely fun and full of charm. There's a stamp rally for visiting all the hardware and buttons, there's mini-games and tech demos to try out the new features, and there's even Switch 2 lore that has quizzes to test you on it. Now, only insane people would pay $10 to go to Nintendo school, but lucky for you, I'm mentally ill. To start off, I decided to collect all of the left Joy-Con stamps. Some are obvious like the face buttons and triggers, but they also have you look for weird stuff like the upper and lower mouse feet. Here we find our first minigame, Dodge the Spike Balls Part 1. Pretty self-explanatory, avoid the falling spikes using mouse controls, and they work surprisingly well. To get all 3 medals here, you must dodge to last longer than 50 seconds, and I mean, I've never lasted longer than 30. Getting all 3 medals opens Part 2, Catching Stars. It's literally the same thing, but you collect stars now. It's cute, but like, it needs something more. This is what we in the business call foreshadowing. Next up is finding where the rumble is strongest. You use the mouse controls in HD Rumble to pick a spot where you feel the most vibration. The closer the guess, the higher the score. It's a fun way to combine the features of the controller, but not something you care to try after one time. It does get much harder when guessing on 2 axes though. I then did my first insight to learn about attaching Joy-Cons. For each of the insights, I'm going to focus on things that you might not have known already, such as how here we learn the Joy-Con 2 can actually be inserted backwards on the system. What is this game, bro? This is some Nintendo shit. There's an HD Rumble demo nearby which showcases the updated feature well. It's basically the ice cube thing from the Switch 1, but this time you shake a tube full of beads and pretend it's cutting edge. However, I will say the difference in vibration between the beads and the rubber ball was significant. I felt things. With all of the stamps collected, I could move on to the Nintendo Switch 2 console area. Here there's a demo to show off the 120Hz screen capabilities of the Switch, and don't get me wrong, I'm thrilled Nintendo is finally discovering refresh rates, but this isn't a minigame, man! Console Screen Insights Volume 1 also isn't a minigame, but it teaches us about the screen specs and the addition of variable refresh rate. But then I ran into a massive problem. This demo here is to show off the Switch 2's 4K capabilities, and I don't have a 4K TV. I need to buy a 4K TV to 100% this game. So anyway, I bought a 4K TV to 100% this game. Seeing the entirety of World 1-1 across the TV was really cool, but visibility, well, I can't see shit. Now, you can't game without Game Card Insights Volume 1, which tells us that Switch 2 game cards have up to 5 times faster loading speeds, and there's actually a small notch in the new cards to tell the console what type of game is loaded. This was pretty neat because this is the same trick they used back in the day for the Game Boy and Game Boy Advance. Microphone Insights show us there's a chip inside the console for noise cancellation that specifically does not reduce the sound of clapping. I wish I was joking. The microphone is specifically tuned to reduce any sounds related to the console like the fan or attaching Joy-Cons. There's a demo to show this off, but don't be expecting any miracles in quality. Like, hello, this is me testing the microphone and crinkling.
Hello, this is me testing the microphone and...
Yeah, that's pretty bad. Then I played Twister for Your Fingers. After all of this, I collected the stamps around the console area, including the new microphone and second USB-C port, and headed for the right Joy-Con area. Stamps here are largely the same as the left Joy-Con, the main difference being the home button and the new C button. The mini-games here had me kind of confused though. I played this one where you try to angle the console with the kickstand to a specific angle, but like, shouldn't that be in the main console part? Anyway, I grabbed the medals and move over to Speed Maze, and this one was pretty fun. You have to use the mouse controls to navigate to the end of a maze without touching the wall. Do it quickly and you get medals. It's so simple, but it really shows off how mouse control is completely different from an analog stick. This also teaches you that you can increase mouse sensitivity in the settings. That's very nice. HD Rumble 2 Insights Volume 2 doesn't really say anything new, but it does set a new precedent for absurd titles in this game. Mouse Sensor Insights Volume 2 goes crazy though. Here we learn a custom lens is used for the mouse camera so it works on tables and your lap. I'm depressed. The Joy-Con 2 insights actually have some interesting info here. The reason the Switch 2 has a small gap between the Joy-Cons and the body is to change the leveraging pivot point to avoid being able to break the controllers off. I also find it interesting they designed the connection points to be floating, meaning the connectors have some play in them to avoid unnecessary strain. And you think that's cool? Wait until you see HD Rumble 2 sound demo. The linear motors here work far better than the Switch 1. Like, wait, what? Can you hear this? What? Dude. Now this is a cool demo, and this is the inside of the right Joy-Con. I was a little surprised that Nintendo would invite everyone to see their hardware, but I respect that confidence. Here there's another HD Rumble demo, this time showing off the ability to pan the Rumble from left to right. But screw that, because it's time for Speed Golf. This mini game showcases how gyro and mouse controls combined allow for positional and rotational control. It's kind of like Wii Motion Plus and a pointer, but you're not embarrassed to do it in front of your family. The levels get harder too, which makes you dial in your swing and angle further. Joy-Con 2 insights then teach us about a new trigger design which has 2 shafts and springs to make pressing the button anywhere along its length feel good. They were not lying. For some reason a tech demo for super resolution was down here. It's nothing super exciting, but I'm glad the technology's packed in. And speaking of things that are packed in, give it up for the Joy-Con 2 strap area. The standout features here are the larger mouse feet on the strap, which improves stability during mouse mode, along with these little rubber stoppers that prevent rattling with stronger vibrations. To show this off, they have a sawing demo that uses mouse controls and HD Rumble to simulate cutting a log. Also, they make you walk the entire strap to get this one stamp. Nintendo, what the fuck? The quick click minigame is fun to test out speed and dexterity with mouse controls, but I can't help but feel that this should have been a duck hunt game or something, man. The dock area is next, but on arrival, I spotted something terrifying. There's a camera area! I don't have the camera. The dock has a new fan in it to draw air from the bottom grate, and the increased radius on the top corners is apparently to make it easier to detach the new Joy-Cons. Or how about this? The bottom of the Switch 2 has this flat portion to prevent it from jamming when sliding in the dock. I genuinely can't tell if we're overthinking this shit or if this is genius. Or like how the dock has rubber feet now to prevent it from sliding, but stopping movement means it would tip easily. So they solved this by making one of the feet differently so the dock can slide a little bit. What? Hold on, let me look at this shit. Holy shit, they're not even lying. Now, something I have always wanted to experience in a video game is scooping with 2 mice, and this is the first game ever to offer exactly that. This area also has a 4K output demo which has you searching for individual floating pixels. 1. There's 2. There were some other insights and stamps to collect, but nothing noteworthy, unlike the Nintendo Switch 2 camera area. The camera can tilt and has an over-engineered privacy shutter, and this whole place is an ad for a $50 camera, isn't it? Joke's on Nintendo though, because you'd have to be an idiot to spend $50 on something like that. I have a USB camera. The first minigame here has you make silly faces, which you're graded on. I gotta say, I was somewhat impressed with the tracking, given I was expecting it to hardly work at all. And bonus points for making people say things like this. What? How is that a 14 mouth and a 12 angle? The second minigame is by far the worst camera minigame, as it uses mouse controls and HD Rumble to guess letters and shapes. I love this one, as it's an example of something that's only really possible on the Switch 2. Sliding the Joy-Con mouse vertically might let you differentiate an E from an F using the Rumble, or moving horizontally might tell you if it's an N or an H. It's not complicated, it's not flashy, but it is wholly unique to this experience, and I like that. I also like the Joy-Con 2L inner area. It has some fun stuff like color the shapes, where I thought you traced the outline for like 5 minutes until I realized you just color the thing in. It does progressively get harder, as if you deviate by even a singular pixel outside of the lines, Nintendo will brick your Switch. Shit! I'm kinda torn on the new Joy-Cons though, as there's clearly a lot of attention to detail here with hiding all the screws and making the buttons bigger and smoother, but the design they've used for the control stick is still prone to stick drift, even if the lifespan is improved. Anyway, in this area there's also a demo for variable refresh rate, but that's much less interesting than Match the Rumble minigame. I mean, Christ, the guy in front of this one literally tells you to let the rumbles fill your hands as well as your heart. I don't know if I'm dumb, but this was super hard until I put the vibrating Joy-Con up to my ear and just listened to it like a speaker. Collecting all the stamps inside the Joy-Con meant I could start on the endgame content. And that's right, it's time for the Joy-Con grip, baby. And they're coming in hot with the stamps. I'm talking rubber cap upper left. I'm talking rubber cap lower left. I'm talking Nintendo Switch 2 logo. Woohoo! But nearby is one of the best mini games, Balloon Hunt. It's basically Metroid Prime 4, but instead of Samus, you're nobody, and instead of aliens, it's balloons, and you shoot them and go faster, and then you unlock other levels, and then there's balloons in balloons, except these ones are a subtle reference to a Metroid, and then the final level has triple balloons, which is an unprecedented number of balloons in the Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome to Her universe. Would you believe me if I said there's a game I loved even more later? It's definitely not LCD Pixel Hunt 3 pixels. F this game. One interesting tidbit here is that the charging grip actually operates as a wired connection when plugged into the Switch 2. I don't believe that was the case for the Switch 1, so this is an interesting nuance here. Also, the new charging grip has the GL and GR buttons, which I think a lot of people missed. The last minigame here is Scrape Off Stain Removal, basically a Mario Party minigame using mouse controls. Now that I think about it, that describes most of the stuff here. The Switch 2 Pro controller area was just around the corner, and oh boy, it's purely informational, correct? This is just for information purposes. It was not. Wait, are you kidding? I need a Pro controller or a charging grip to 100% this game? So anyway, I bought a charging grip to 100% this game. And if paying $50 for this thing wasn't bad enough, they give you the worst minigame to play with it. It's just Twister for my fingers again, but now on a controller. Brother, I have arthritis now. But it doesn't stop there. They have opened the GL/GR locks part 2 and part 3. What were they cooking? There's also a tech demo here, HD Rumble 2 Maker, which I thought for sure must be a Mario Maker sequel, but it's just a dynamic vibrator with mouse controls. There are 2 areas left and the game starts to get way more fun from here. Surely I don't have to buy the Joy-Con wheel, right? Surely I do not have to buy the Joy-Con wheel. You don't need that one, thank God. You do need to play the minigame here though. Stunt driving is f***ing awesome. You use mouse controls to move a car left and right on a track and can also tilt it using the gyro to dodge obstacles or grab boosts. What? This is way better than stupid GR minigame. Fire that man! Fire that f***ing guy. I mean, it's so intuitive, yet has a fun level of challenge that feels rewarding. Nintendo is always at their best when they create gaming experiences like this that don't need explaining. And just look at the final sequence to finish part 2 of this minigame. There's also this motorcycle tech demo which you drive with motion controls, and just who thought the Joy-Con wheel would bring all this? I mean, the final area must be insane. Enter the Nintendo Switch 2 console inner area. Again, this is kind of unprecedented for Nintendo, as they not only give you an accurate look at the internal layout of this thing, but a massive lore dump on the hardware to the point that it's kind of overwhelming. Everything from what is a CPU to the history of Nintendo and operating systems is covered here. Now listen up, because these are the highlights. Electronic devices get hot. The Switch 2 has twice the airflow for cooling compared to Switch 1. The screen of the Switch 2 is slightly recessed so it doesn't scratch when face down on a surface. The chassis of the Switch 2 is a magnesium alloy. The micro SD express slot was intentionally placed far from the CPU to avoid overheating the processor. And my personal favorite, games use electricity. The first minigame here uses dual mouse controls to do breaststroke, and it was so good. It manages to be silly while not compromising on being goofy. Next up was Slot in the Shapes, and it once again shows off mouse controls with gyro alignment. Part 2 has the slots floating around, which added to the challenge, but not something I care to play again. However, there are a bunch of minigames I want to play again, and it just so happens that once you get to the 80 medal mark, a bunch of additional parts to old games start opening up. Speed Maze is now Speed Maze 3, a pair of glasses, a much more difficult path to follow with mouse controls, which you must complete in under 5 seconds. Speed Maze 4, where you need to go through multiple moving tight spaces, reach the goal in under 1.2 seconds. Speed Golf 3, sink the ball on this oddly hand-drawn looking course in under 7.5 seconds. Speed Golf 4, where you play golf on Swiss cheese. Quick Click 4, the next target only appears as you're about to hit the current target. Color the Shapes 4, you're out of kindergarten into grade 1, color in the f***ing snake. Dodge the Spike Balls 3, there's 2 UFOs now, motherfucker, and each one is controlled by a separate mouse. Touch a ball even once and it's all over. But one minigame. One minigame was the final boss of them all. Dodge the Spike Balls 4 Twin UFOs Nightmare Mode is what you get when Nintendo designs a game for octopuses. I mean, look at this! That's not a game, that's a hate crime. They throw so much goddamn shit at you and expect both hands to dodge expertly. I've used this thing to open a door maybe once in the past month, but I was determined, so I had to lock in, and after a half hour straight of trying, I finally did it. And so I completed everything there is to do in the Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. Do I recommend it?